imagine taking your absolute best player, right? Like the athlete who reliably brings in all your championship rings.
Right, the franchise player.
Exactly. The one who basically pays the bills for the entire franchise. Now, imagine that right before the biggest game of the decade, you decide to perform a full, unanesthetized heart transplant on them.
Wow, yeah. That is quite the visual.
It's wild, but honestly, that is the only way to accurately describe what Mercedes-Benz is doing right now. I mean, usually when a massive legacy company has a best-selling product, the golden rule is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You give it a little facelift, maybe a fresh coat of paint, but you definitely do not mess with the fundamental formula that just, prints money.
Well, it is the definition of a high-stakes gamble. You're taking a product that possesses immense brand equity and fundamentally altering its DNA. The automotive transition we're witnessing right now requires companies to convince their most loyal customer base to completely change how they interact with their vehicle without alienating them in the process.
It's a tightrope walk.
It really is. Which brings us to our mission for you today. Welcome to this deep dive, where we are going to completely break down Mercedes' most high-stakes vehicle launch to date, the all-electric GLC 400 4MATIC.
A really fascinating vehicle to look at.
Oh, totally. We are stripping away the marketing fluff, the shiny press release adjectives, and all that corporate spin. We want to know if this thing actually works.
Right. Let's look at the actual data.
Exactly. And to do that, we are going straight to the hard evidence. We've compiled raw charging curve data from EVKX, some real-world hands-on test drive reports from the coast of Portugal, and the exact rollout specifications. We want to help you figure out if this luxury EV actually justifies its rather hefty premium price tag. I'll be synthesizing these diverse data points to, get past the theoretical numbers. We really need to look at the granular charging analytics, the market rollout strategies, and critically, how the vehicle physically performs when pushed on an actual road, not just in a laboratory simulation.
Yeah, the real world is where it matters for you listening. And to set the stakes for you, let's look at a direct quote from Mercedes-Benz CEO Ola Källenius. He didn't just call this a new car. He explicitly called the GLC their most important vehicle, period.
That's a huge statement.
Right. So for you, the listener, we have to ask the central question. Is it a stroke of absolute genius or a massive company-endangering risk to rip the gas engine out of your best-selling SUV and replace it with a 94-kilowatt-hour battery?
It's the multi-billion-dollar question.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand why Mercedes is taking this massive risk with their flagship SUV, we have to look beneath the floorboards at the underlying architecture, because you simply cannot replace a global bestseller with inferior technology and expect people to just, nod and open their wallets.
No, you absolutely cannot. You have to offer a technological leap. And the foundation of this new GLC is the native MB.EA 800-volt platform.
Okay, so a brand new platform.
Yes, and the raw numbers this platform enables are significant. We're looking at a massive 100 kilowatt-hour gross battery pack.
Wow.
Yeah, which offers 94 kilowatt hours of usable net energy. And this is paired with dual synchronous electric motors featuring permanent magnets, completely developed in-house by Mercedes.
Wait, I want to pause on those motors for a second, because dual synchronous electric motors featuring permanent magnets is, it's a mouthful.
It is a bit technical, yeah.
For those of us who aren't electrical engineers, why does it actually matter that the magnets are permanent?
It comes down to raw efficiency, especially at higher speeds. You see, in some electric motors, the vehicle has to use electricity from the battery to actively generate the magnetic field that spins the motor.
Oh, so it's spending energy just to get ready to move.
Exactly. But with a permanent magnet synchronous motor, those magnets are already physically built into the rotor. Because the magnetic field is always there, the motor doesn't waste precious battery power creating it.
That makes total sense.
Right. And this makes the vehicle highly efficient at steady highway speeds, which historically has been a real weak point for EVs.
Yeah, you're saving battery power for actual driving. And speaking of driving, the power output here is wild. I saw the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time is 4.3 seconds, with the top speed limited to 210 kilometers per hour.
It's incredibly quick.
I mean, 4.3 seconds for a mid-size family SUV. That is sports car territory from just a few years ago. But how are they getting a combined 490 horsepower or 360 kilowatts and 800 newton meters of torque out of the system? Does it all come back to that 800-volt platform?
It really does.
Because I often use the analogy of, upgrading the plumbing in your house, like going from a standard narrow garden hose to a massive high-pressure fire hose. You're moving energy with way less resistance.
The fire hose analogy gives a really good visual for volume, but to understand the actual mechanism, we need to look at the physics of electricity, specifically Ohm's law.
Okay, take me back to high school physics.
Right, so power equals voltage multiplied by current. If you want to push a massive amount of power into a motor or into a battery during fast charging, you basically have two choices. You can increase the current, which creates immense friction and heat.
And heat is bad, right?
Very bad. That heat is wasted energy, and it requires heavy, thick cables to manage it safely. Or, your second option, you can double the voltage from the traditional 400-volt systems to 800 volts.
Ah, I see.
By doubling the voltage, you can deliver the exact same amount of power using half the current. Less current means significantly less heat buildup,
Yeah.
thinner wiring, less weight, and just fundamentally more efficient management of energy flows.
Less heat equals less wasted energy. Got it. And the sources show that efficiency in action, too. The data lists a consumption rate of just 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
Which is fantastic for an SUV of this size.
Right. And that level of efficiency, combined with that large 94 kilowatt hour battery, gives the GLC a stated maximum WLTP range of up to 715 kilometers, which is roughly 445 miles for our U.S. listeners.
We should clarify, though, that WLTP is the European testing standard. It incorporates a mix of city, suburban, and highway driving, so it tends to be slightly more optimistic than real-world highway cruising.
Sure, it's a bit of a best-case scenario.
Exactly. But 715 kilometers remains a formidable baseline. Furthermore, the architecture supports a towing capacity of 2.4 tons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that metric signals to the traditional SUV buyer that this is designed to be a true utility vehicle. You can tow a boat or a heavy trailer without the platform struggling.
Which sounds fantastic on a spec sheet. But let's be honest, spec sheets are printed in perfectly climate-controlled offices, and the real world is where range anxiety actually lives.
Reacher.
We need to seamlessly pivot from the theoretical laboratory range to practical application. And we have a fascinating report from an Italian journalist's road test for Corriere della Sera, driven by Gabriele Vigala in the Algarve region of southern Portugal.
Yes, the Portuguese coast provides excellent real-world context for this. The journalists took a GLC 400 4MATIC in the Premium Plus trim and drove it along the winding panoramic Atlantic routes between Faro and Albufeira.
Sounds like a nice work trip.
Definitely, but it is a route filled with changes in elevation and tight corners, so it's far removed from a flat, straight highway test.
And here is where the numbers get really juicy. The journalists started their drive with the battery at an 85% state of charge, which the car's computer estimated would give them 512 kilometers of range.
Okay.
They then drove a 77-kilometer loop. And crucially, the driver admitted they drove with a heavy foot on the accelerator, like they were actively pushing the car's 490 horsepower to see what it could do on those coastal roads.
Not exactly ego driving.
Not at all. And they finished that 77-kilometer loop at 62% charge, with 441 kilometers of estimated range remaining. Wait, let me pull out my mental calculator and do the back-of-the-napkin math for you listening. Okay, they burned 23% of the battery to travel just 77 kilometers. 20% of a 94 kilowatt-hour battery is about 21.6 kilowatt-hours. They burned nearly 22 kilowatt-hours to go 77 kilometers.
Yeah, that's high.
That means they were getting terrible efficiency. Doesn't that aggressive driving completely undercut that theoretical 715-kilometer maximum range?
What's fascinating here is the underlying strategy that math reveals. Yes, 21.6 kilowatt hours for 77 kilometers equates to roughly 28 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
Which is nearly double the official rating.
It is nearly double the official efficiency rating. Aggressive, inefficient driving on winding coastal roads absolutely plummets the immediate range. But look at the final numbers on the dashboard.
Right.
Even after practically abusing the accelerator for an hour, they still had 62% of their battery left and over 400 kilometers of range remaining.
Ah, I see. It's all about the buffer. They brute forced their way out of range anxiety.
Precisely the point.
Yeah.
This demonstrates why Mercedes opted for such a large 94 kilowatt-hour net battery. It provides a massive safety net. The journalist specifically noted that this test proves to the electroskeptics, the buyers terrified of running out of juice, that you do not have to drive this car like a cautious hypermiler.
You don't have to baby it?
No. The reserves are so deep that even a heavy foot leaves you with more range than many early EVs had on a fully optimized 100% charge.
That is a massive aha moment. For your daily life, it means you can drive it like a normal or even aggressive sports car without constantly staring at the battery gauge in a cold sweat.
Exactly.
But no matter how big the battery is, if you were driving with a heavy foot and burning through range, eventually you do have to plug the thing in.
That is unavoidable.
So let's dig into our next data set, the EVKX charging curve data.
Yeah.
Because this is where that 800-volt physics lesson you just gave us really shows its true colors.
The EVKX analytics on this vehicle isolate the exact charging metrics, and they are impressive. The GLC 400 4MATIC has a staggering peak DC fast charging speed of 350 kilowatts.
350.
Yes. To understand how that translates to real time, the industry standard metric is the 10% to 80% charge time. For this GLC, going from 10% to 80% takes exactly 21 minutes and 18 seconds.
It's fast.
Very. And during that entire 21-minute window, the car maintains an incredibly high average charging speed of 185.2 kilowatts.
And average charging speed is always the metric to watch, right? Because marketing departments love to sell the peak speed, but the average is what actually dictates how long you stand at the charger in the freezing cold.
Exactly. The average is the reality.
I was looking at that EVKX charging curve table, and the drop-off is fascinating. Between 10% and 12% state of charge, the car is pulling that massive 354 kilowatts. But as it gets fuller, it drastically slows down.
It has to, yes.
By the time it hits 80%, the speed drops to 121 kilowatts, and by 90%, it's trickling down at 73 kilowatts. For you listening, think of it exactly like packing a suitcase for a long trip.
Okay, I like this.
At first, when the suitcase is totally empty, you can just throw shirts and jeans in at lightning speed. Bam, bam, bam.
Super easy.
But as that suitcase gets 80% full, you have to slow way down. You start carefully pressing things into the corners, making sure nothing gets crushed or broken so you can finally zip it shut safely. That's exactly what the vehicle's battery management system is doing with the electricity.
To take your suitcase analogy a step further, the battery management system isn't just carefully placing the clothes, it is aggressively monitoring the temperature of every single shirt as it goes in.
Oh, because of the heat we talked about.
Right, because fast charging creates immense thermal load, even on an 800-volt system. The system actively throttles the electrical input to protect the longevity and chemical health of the individual battery cells as they approach maximum capacity.
Make sure they don't catch fire, basically.
Or just degrade prematurely. Pushing too much power into a nearly full battery degrades it. It's why charging from 80% to 100% is rarely a good use of your time on a road trip.
So, practically speaking, what is the real-world takeaway from all these kilowatt numbers? Like, how long am I actually waiting?
The critical metric for the user is range added per minute. According to the EVKX data, during that optimal 10% to 80% charging window, the GLC adds 23.4 kilometers, or about 14.5 miles of WLTP range every single minute it is plugged in.
Okay, wait, let me just process that. 14.5 miles of range added every 60 seconds.
Yes.
That means a quick 10-minute stop, just enough time to use the restroom, grab a coffee, and stretch your legs, adds roughly 300 kilometers, or almost 190 miles of range to the vehicle.
It's game-changing.
That completely changes the psychology of the road trip.
Yeah.
You aren't waiting for the car to charge anymore. The car's waiting for you to finish your coffee.
That's the goal of 800-volt architecture.
But let's be honest, even if a full 10 to 80% charge only takes 21 minutes, if you're crammed into a tiny, uncomfortable cabin, those 21 minutes feel like an hour.
Oh, absolutely.
Mercedes knows their buyers won't tolerate a downgrade in comfort just because the car is electric. So let's talk about the physical vehicle you'd actually be sitting in. Let's talk about the living room on wheels.
Well, the physical expansion of the vehicle is significant. Mercedes didn't just swap the powertrain, they altered the vehicle's footprint to maximize the benefits of an electric skateboard chassis.
Oh, so it's a dedicated EV platform.
Yes. The new electric GLC is 4.84 meters long, making it 12 centimeters longer than the traditional gas version. More importantly, they stretched the wheelbase by 8 centimeters, bringing it to 2.97 meters.
And without a massive engine block and a, transmission tunnel running down the middle of the car, stretching the wheelbase by 8 centimeters must completely change how the cabin feels inside.
It translates into distinct spatial benefits for the passengers. You gain 13 millimeters of extra front legroom and 46 millimeters of extra front headroom.
Nice.
And the rear passengers gain an extra 47 millimeters of legroom, which changes the seating posture entirely. The cargo capacity is also expanded.
We always need more trunk space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The rear trunk starts at 570 liters, but expands up to a massive 740 liters with the seats folded down. Additionally, they capitalized on the empty space under the hood adding a new 128-liter frunk for extra storage.
A frunk. Always love a good frunk. But here's where it gets really interesting for the tech lovers, the dashboard. When you sit in the driver's seat, you are greeted by the new MBUX Hyperscreen.
It's quite a sight.
It is massive. This is a 33.1-inch or 99.3 centimeter continuous digital display that absolutely dominates the front cabin. I mean, it stretches almost pillar to pillar. It completely shifts the vibe from driving machine to high-end tech lounge.
It is a deliberate statement of modern luxury. And speaking of design statements, the exterior styling for this 2026 rollout represents a calculated shift.
How so?
Well, many EV brands have moved toward completely flat aerodynamic front fascias to reduce drag.
Yeah, that sort of featureless, smooth look.
Right. Mercedes, however, has chosen to retain a large, prominently chromed grille, updated with a modern pixel motif. They are balancing aerodynamic efficiency with their historic visual identity.
I love that choice. They want it to still look like a commanding Mercedes-Benz when it pulls up in your rearview mirror, not a generic computer mouse on wheels.
Exactly.
So we've covered the tech, the space, and the charging. Let's get down to brass tacks, trims, and pricing. What are we looking at?
The vehicle will be structured across several trims. You'll have Advanced, Advanced Plus, Premium, and Premium Plus.
Okay, standard tiering.
Right. These tiers unlock features like an illuminated front grille, high-end Burmester 3D or 4D surround sound systems, and specialized massage seating.
Massage seating is always a win.
Oh, definitely. As for the financial commitment, the order books have opened in Europe. It is launching in Germany at a starting price of €71,281, which converts to roughly $82,750.
Okay, so for context, that starting price represents about a €10,000 premium over the current gas-powered equivalent. And for listeners in the US, the sources note that Mercedes is planning to launch this as a 2027 model, with arrival expected stateside in early to mid-2026.
So it's coming soon.
It really is. So let's bring this entire massive gamble together. We've taken a deep dive into the underlying 800-volt architecture that makes this SUV basically a high-speed energy vacuum, avoiding the heat traps of older EVs.
Yes.
We've seen from the heavy foot test in Portugal that the 94 kilowatt-hour battery gives you a massive safety net. You can drive aggressively and let the sheer size of the battery brute force your range anxiety away.
Absolutely.
We know you can get 300 kilometers of range in a 10-minute coffee break, and you get to do it all while sitting in an expanded lounge-like cabin with a 33-inch screen and a Burmester sound system. The question we pose to you, the listener, is this: does a €10,000 premium feel worth it for the time you save at the charger and the sheer space and technology you gain in the cabin?
It's an important question. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this vehicle's launch signals a fundamental shift in the broader automotive industry.
How do you mean?
As electric vehicles continue to reach parity in range and charging speeds, approaching a point where a 20-minute stop is universally standard across all brands, we face a fascinating paradigm shift. Will the definition of automotive luxury soon stop being about what's under the hood entirely?
Because everyone will be fast and electric.
Exactly. If a propulsion is universally quiet, universally fast, and universally electric, does luxury shift purely to the quality of the hyperscreens, the intricacies of the massage seats, and the seamlessness of the software ecosystem? Will we eventually buy our cars the exact same way we currently buy our smartphones?
Wow. Are we just buying giant smartphones with incredibly comfortable seats? That is a brilliantly provocative thought to leave on. It's like we said at the very beginning, they've done the heart transplant, and now the entire organism is relying on a brand new digital nervous system to win people over.
It's a new era.
It really is. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this deep dive. We truly appreciate you sharing your time with us today, diving into the raw data, the thermal physics, and the heavy foot tests that are actively reshaping the automotive world. Keep asking those big questions, keep looking past the marketing fluff, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.